Good morning, students. Today we will discuss the remaining subtopics from the chapter The Mughal Empire, and this is the last video from the chapter. In this class we will discuss the further subtopics, but before discussing the subtopics from the chapter, we will recapitulate, memorize the subtopics which we studied in the last class. The subtopics are primogeniture, Kopar-Senri, Mansabdars. Primogeniture, it means that Mughals believed in dividing the inheritance. According to primogeniture, the eldest son inherited his father's estate. Understand? We have studied. And afterward, the second subtopic is Kopar-Senri. The division. Mughal believed in Timurid custom, and according to Timurid custom, the inheritance estate would be divided among all sons of the emperor. Understand? Division of the inheritance amongst all the sons. And the last subtopics is Mansabdar. Mansabdar were collecting taxes to the designated land, which we said Jagirs or Watan. They were collecting taxes, but they had not the right to stay on the Jagir for a long time. They had the authority to collect taxes. Understand? And they were paying taxes to the cavalryman. Cavalryman means that the cavalryman who were maintaining horses for warfield, for battlefield. Understand? So they were paying they were paying salaries to cavalryman. The work of Mansabdar to maintain cavalry and to look after the Jagirs and to collect the taxes. Understand? Afterward, we will discuss the further subtopics from the chapter. So you must be concentrate and enjoy the lecture. Students, we will discuss these subtopics from the chapter. The subtopics are Jabt and Jamindars, Akbarnama and Aine Akbari, a closer look, Akbar's policies, Sulh-e-Kul, the Mughal Empire in the 17th century and after. So first we will start the chapter with the first subtopic. The subtopic is Jabt and Jamindars. Students, you know that the main source of income available in Mughal rule was tax on the produce of the peasantry, on the production. Whatever were produced, taxes were taken from the farmers, peasants. Understand? And in most places, peasants paid taxes through rural elites. And who were the people? The headman or the local chieftain. The Mughal used the one term, Jamindars. Understand? To describe intermediaries. They were intermediaries, means that they were working between both peasants and the ruler. Understand? Whether they were local headman or village, they were local headmen of villages or powerful chieftains. They were the people, they were collecting taxes from the farmers. Understand? Whatever happened there, Akbar's revenue minister Todermal carried out a careful survey of a crop yields, prices of areas cultivated for a 10 years period, 1570 to 1580. On the basis of this data, he collected the data, the produced data, whatever the harvest was produced, he also calculated the production and the price of the crops. Afterward, on the basis of this data, tax was taken from the farmers on each crops as a cash. Understand? Each province had schedule of revenue rates for individual crops, and this revenue system was known as Japt. The revenue system that was decided by Todermal on the basis of his calculation, and that tax that was taken on the basis of time revenue rates was known as Japt. Understand? It means that the taxes which were taken, that was known as Japt, and who were collecting taxes, they were known as Jamindars. Understand? Afterward, we know that this was not possible in provinces like Bengal and Gujarat to collect taxes. Afterward, what had happened due to taking extra taxes? What had happened? The exploitation by Mughal administrators could drive them to rebellion. Peasants, farmers started to rebel against Mughal empire. Sometimes Jamindars and peasants of the same caste allied in rebellion against Mughal authority. What had happened? Sometimes we get that Jamindars and peasants, they came together against Mughal authority. Understand? And these peasants revolts challenged the stability of Mughal empire from the end in the 17th century. Understand? Because of the rebellion, Mughal empire declined in the 17th century. The next subtopic is Akbarnama and Aine Akbari. You know that Abul Fazl was one of the friends of Akbar, close friends, and he was also courtier in Akbar's court. Abul Fazl write a history about his reign, Akbar's reign. He wrote Akbarnama in 3 volumes. In the first volume, he described about the ancestor of Akbar. In second volume, he described about events of Akbar's reign. And in the third volume, which we know, Aine Akbari, it deals with Akbar's administration, household, army. Understand? The revenues and the geography of his empire. Understand? About the culture and traditions. He also mentioned. Who mentioned? Abul Fazl in third volume. First volume about ancestor. Second volume about his about his reign, Akbar's reign, in which area he had controlled, and third volume is known as Aine Akbari, in which he described about flora, fauna, administration, everything. Understand? Afterward, we are coming the next subtopic, Akbar's policies. Akbar's policies. Students, you know that Abul Fazl explained that the empire was divided into provinces. The empire was divided during the time of Akbar into provinces, and these provinces were called subas, and provinces were governed by Shubedar. Understand? They had political and military responsibilities. Understand? Who? Subedar. They carried out both political and military functions. Each province also had a financial officer, and the financial officer was known as Diwan on that time. And what was the work of financial officer? For the maintenance of peace and order. Financial officer for the finance work and for the maintenance of peace and order in his province, in his subas. Akbar, the subedar in his province means that the subedar was supported by other officers. The other officers were such as military paymaster, which we say Bakshi, the minister in charge of religious and charitable patronage, Sadr. The minister of religious matter was known as Sadr, and military commanders, Fauzdars. Military commanders were known as Fauzdar on that time, and the town police was known as Commander Kotwal. Understand? As you know that Noor Jahan's influence in Jahangir's court. Noor Jahan married the Emperor Jahangir in 1611 and received the title Noor Jahan. She remained extremely loyal and supportive to the monarch, to the ruler, to the Emperor Jahangir. Understand? As a mark of honor, Jahangir struck silver coin on the silver coin bearing his own titles. On the one side, inscription on the one side of inscription, the name of Queen Begum Noor Jahan, and on the other side also Jahangir. Understand? And Noor Jahan was given the title Elevated Majesty Noor Jahan Padshah Begum. Understand? Afterward we come to know that when Akbar was in Fatehpur Sikri during 1570, he started discussions on religious matter with ulemas, Brahmins, Jesuit priests who were Roman Catholic, and Zoroastrians. These discussions took place in the Ibadat Khana. He was interested in the religion of social customs of different people. Akbar's interacted with people of different faiths and made realize them religious scholars who emphasized ritual and dogma were often bigots. It means that Akbar in Ibadat Khana, he met with different religious people for uniting everyone and to show that, to discuss about a new religion that is known as Sulh-e-Kul, which we will discuss further. Understand? Afterward, these two terms were used according to Akbar. The dogma, the statement or an interpretation declared as authoritative with the expectation that it would be followed without question. Dogma means that whatever is said, whatever is mentioned, we follow it without any question. Understand? So he did not believe in dogma and bigots. Bigot means suppose that some people dislike other religion, some people hate other religion. So he did not like such thing, to hate other religion. He wanted to give respect to every religion, and he did not like to believe on the dogma which were mentioned in the scriptures, holy scriptures. So he discussed. Understand? According to Sulh-e-Kul, the main concept of Sulh-e-Kul, universal peace among all, not to discriminate other, respect every religion in his reign, Akbar's reign. Understand? And the main basis of the main ethics were honesty, justice, peace. That was universally what? Applicable. Understand? Sulh-e-Kul Jahangir Akbar's son described his father's policy, Sul-Akul. He said that in this Sul-Ikul religion, everyone was respected. Everyone was, we can say that, getting compassion. Understand? Not to discriminate to anybody. And in a Sul-Ikul, where the respect for every religion, there Sunnis, Shias met in one mosque, Christians and Jews church in the pray. Understand? So this was the principle of Sul-Ikul, principle of universal peace, where every person from different religion would get respect. Understand? And the last subtopic is the Mughal Empire in the 17th century and after. Students, you know that during that time, during Mughal Empire, international travelers described it as the fabled land of wealth. Understand? It was described by the travelers that India was the fabled land of wealth. Understand? As you know that documents from the 20th century, documents from the 20th year of Shah Jahan reign inform us that the highest ranking mansabdars were only 445 in number of total 8,000. Understand? Means that 445 mansabdar were getting highest salary. Understand? And this number was mere 5.6% of the total number of mansabdars, and they were receiving 61.5% of total estimated revenue of the empire and salaries for themselves and their troopers. Understand? Means that in 8,000 mansabdar, in 8,000 mansabdar, only 445 mansabdars, they were getting 61.5% of total estimated revenue as a salary, and they were paying their troopers, soldiers, from these revenues. Understand? So you can get that how much differences were there. Understand? Only 445 were getting good salaries. Afterward, what had happened? You know that. But the scale of revenue collection left very little for investment in the hands of the primary producers, the peasants and the artisans. Understand? The poorest among them only lived from hand to mouth, and they could hardly consider investing in additional resources, tools and supplies to increase productivity. The wealthier peasantry and artisanal groups, the merchants and bankers, profited in this economic world. You got that? We get here that 61.5% revenue, whatever revenue taxes were collected, the taxes were given to mansabdar. Only 445 mansabdar they were getting, and after that other peasants, farmers and artisanal workers, suppose that we can say carpenters, sculptors, weavers, they were not getting, and they were unable to expand, they were unable to spend money for getting any tools, or they were unable to investing for getting additional resources or for increasing productivity. They were unable to spent money because they were getting very little, and they were only getting to fulfill their stomach, whatever the money taxes they were getting, whatever the left taxes were, that were used for only taking food. Understand? So we can say that Mughal emperor slowly declined because their servants emerged as powerful centers in different regions. They constituted new dynasties, and command of provinces like Hyderabad and Awadh became free. Understand? So here we are getting only who were getting more profit, only a few mansabdars they were getting, the few mansabdars were getting more profit, and in other hand artists, peasants, they were suffering because of levying additional taxes, and they had not so much wealth to spend for their for increasing their productive tools. Understand? They were unable to purchase any productive tools and to expense their productivity. Understand? So I hope that you have understood these subtopics clearly. Thanks for watching the video.